Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. Pleased to welcome back ECW Original Jack Victory. Welcome back, Jack, to Wrestling with Heart.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for reaching out and coming back on the show.
Absolutely.
I know a lot has happened since we last spoke. Why don't we start talking about your love of professional wrestling, being involved in the business for so many years. Do you remember the first time you watched wrestling on television?
Oh God, oh man, I was born and raised in New Jersey, so everybody up there was a WWF, mark. I loved it ever since I remember before I even walked. It was part of my life.
So it was like love at first sight. It's
Absolutely.
first time you see it, you're just glued.
Glued, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of those things where, you're flipping through the channels and bam, you see something that catches your eye. Two big, muscular men just going at it. Or
Yeah.
women, or
Yeah.
women. And so you're just watching and you're mesmerized by this and you're going, man, what is this? How do I get into this? And the rest is history. I mean, you started watching since you were in diapers.
Yeah.
Talk to me about like some of the first few wrestlers that you started really going, man, I really like this person's work.
I guess when I was in my high school days, it was, oh my God, George the Animal Steel, Snuka, Haystacks Calhoun, the Samoans, it just Zabisco, Bruno, all the top guys from that area,
I think it's so cool. Like Jersey, New York, Philadelphia, like has their own like circuit, that Northeast Boston.
Right.
And so you're watching these guys on TV and they're making the rounds. You're going from each city to different places.
Right.
Did you ever get to go live as a kid?
Yeah. 2 or 3 times that back then they used to do house shows in high schools. They would bring 3 or 4 of their top guys into high schools and they would sell out instantly. I mean, it was it's amazing how now they don't even, high schools aren't even looked at. It's small arenas and now it's big football stadiums and stuff like that.
It's become a multi-million-dollar enterprise.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And so when did you know, or did you know right then and there, I want to be a wrestler?
Well, thank God that he put size on me. You back then, if you could be wanting to be a professional wrestler, but if you didn't have the size, they weren't going to look at you. It's different nowadays. They have smaller guys, but back then it really didn't have. You really didn't have to be muscular, but you had to be a pretty big presence to get any kind of shot.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to really break in the business,
Yeah.
and so you really have to put a lot of effort into becoming a professional wrestler. And I
Yeah.
know we talked last time about the training process. Um, Going through the ringer, I mean, you really have to, you know, work your body like
Yeah.
through intense drills. And so, talk to me again about your experiences with learning how to wrestle, learning the basics, And what was the biggest motivator for you to keep going when things got tough?
Right out of high school, I started wrestling in Easton, Pennsylvania with DC Drake, Eddie Miranda, um, oh God, Ted Petty was there. Um, and these guys just, I never went to a wrestling school. These guys actually, helped me out, brought me in, gave me a gimmick, taught me the basics, and I just learned as I went. You know, back then we had VHS tapes and with these big cameras. So, I would tape, my matches. And that's how I broke in, just sending VHS tapes all over the place. And, Bill Dundee called me and flew me in to Texas and gave me a tryout.
Hmm.
So,
I mean, Bill Dundee is one of the all-time great
yeah, he's a
legends.
great dude. He's the one that actually gave me my name, Jack Victory.
Hmm.
He uh he goes, I'm gonna call you Jack Victory, and you're gonna lose every damn match. And he goes, you're gonna get tons of heat. And he was pretty right.
So learning from him and studying under him, I'm sure he gave you some good advice as
Oh yeah.
well.
Yeah, I couldn't have asked to break into a territory like the Mid-South Sports. I mean, we literally worked 8 shows a week, and you learn fast. You every day wrestling. Twice on the weekends. It was a fast learning experience.
You're paying your dues.
Yeah, yep,
And so getting to wrestle in front of, small crowds at first and then work your way up to the big ones,
right.
I'm sure starting out you were nervous.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My first match was in Houston at the Sam Houston Coliseum. Um, I think I wrestled Sonny King, and yeah, you talk about nerves. Yeah, very nervous. Um, and that was a double shot. I flew in to try out, and it was a double shot. It was Houston, and I want to say Dallas because I remember Butch Reed and Hercules Hernandez said you want to tag along with us to the next town, and so that's basically what happened. I was wrestling in world class. Dusty Rhodes was the booker in WCW, and a good friend of mine, Angel of Death, was the Russian assassin number one. And they wanted another wrestler. They wanted a Russian assassin number two. So Dusty called me and said, "Hey, baby, you want to be that Russian assassin number two?" And I was like, "Of course I do." So they flew me into Georgia, and I stayed there. I probably had 10 gimmicks there, but you know, great place.
Well, you got your exposure, you're on
Yep,
television
yep, yep.
and getting that recognition. And so eventually you make it to ECW.
Correct.
And this was a huge, huge time in the business because we were in the thick of the Monday Night Wars,
Right,
and you
right.
had WCW and WWE go head to head with each other. But ECW starts making waves. It's
Yeah.
becoming this huge phenomenon. People
Little
are,
cult following, little cult follow. Um, they yeah, they did some amazing, crazy stuff, man. That it was a blast. The best time I ever had in wrestling was my last 5 years there. It was pretty cool.
and I think the cool thing about ECW was that the fans were into it, and also behind the curtain, behind the scenes, the locker room was just like a family. It was a very
Yeah,
welcoming
yeah,
environment, and I've had so many people on the show,
right.
from ECW talk about, working there and the memories that they had. I mean,
Yeah, it
it
was a
really
good
is,
time.
yeah, it's something you really can't duplicate because it was just so, it was like a once in a lifetime kind of
Right.
moment. And getting the chance to be a part of that company and organization, getting to have these storylines. You make your debut in 98.
Uh,
Was it 98 or
I think it was
97?
around 97. Yeah, late 97 probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Talk to me about your debut and the creation of your character and how everything kind of happened when you got started.
I was living in Georgia at the time. And I was still out of the business, doing just independents and all that stuff. Um, and I went to one of the ECW shows at um, Marietta, I think it was. Yeah, Marietta Civic Center, and you know, met Tommy Dreamer for the first time, and Paulie used to be, my manager way back in the day. So we were still good friends, and they, they both looked at me and said, "You ever thought about coming back to the business?" And I was like, you always think about it, and so they said, "What? Well, let's do it," So I broke in Philadelphia. Um, Paulie put me in the front row, as a mark, um, hopped the railing. Um, in the beginning, I was gonna be a baby face helping New Jack out, but then I grabbed the guitar and pretty much laid his ass out with the guitar in Philadelphia, and so started a great feud with him, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a shocking moment, when come in as a babyface and then you leave as a heel.
Right, right.
Did you prefer being a heel over a
Oh yeah,
babyface?
I was never. To this day, I don't think I ever worked as a babyface. Never.
Hmm.
I've always took pride in, back in the day, the heels would call the match. You know what I mean? Today it's all, pretty much everybody talks about it. But back in the day, we never talked over matches. It was always called in the ring and stuff like that. So I couldn't remember a match like today, so it was an art form for heels back in the day.
Did they ever come to you and pitch the
Sure,
idea of?
sure. Yeah, they would send ideas over with the referees and stuff like that. But Bill Watts, we had separate dressing rooms. We didn't even see before we actually worked together. So, it was it's quite different to today's standards.
Yeah, you always can get away with more with playing a bad guy than a good guy, I
Yes,
suppose.
it was a lot funner. Yes.
Well, you wrestled a lot of people during your time in ECW. Who were some of your favorite opponents that you got to work with there? And
Obviously, New Jack. Yeah, obviously New Jack. Then I broke my knee. That was a shoot. I broke my knee, so they put me with Paulie put me with Steve Carino, and we had some really great matches together and stuff like that with Dusty, and Carino was uh, one of the best talkers on the mic, and such a great worker. You know what I mean? He was such a great worker. Hated by a lot of people, but a great worker, great talker.
now you were there from throughout until throughout the end, I
Right to
guess.
the end.
Right to
I
the
mean,
end.
right to the end. Yep. Yep.
That had to have been hard, you
It
know.
was. It was. We, you don't have to be, stupid to see the writing coming on the wall and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Um, Unfortunately, nobody, actually picked it up and ran with it. Paulie was, the mastermind of it all. And yep, it came to an end.
What was your reaction going through your mind when ECW closed?
Oh, you know, you're always bummed out, because it's not only you know, ECW the wrestling, but it's ECW the family. You know what I mean? It's like, 20, 25 of your friends and your brothers, gone. You'll see them out on the road at once in a while here and there. I still go to conventions and see them, and it's great to see them. I can't believe it's 20 plus years ago. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's always good to run into old friends and to
Yeah,
to see fans that remember you and share these stories. It provides you with a lot of good feelings.
right, right,
It has to make you feel good, whenever you see people that you hadn't seen in years.
right.
When you go to conventions, is there like a particular wrestler that you hadn't met before that you kind of geek out when you see them
Oh,
for the first time?
it was probably 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when getting back to me as being a young pup, Mark. Uh, Johnny Rods was one of the middle of the road heels, but man, he was never met him and finally got to meet him up in Jersey at a convention, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's always good to meet people that you aspire to be like and look up to
Right,
and provide you with like that full circle moment.
right,
And then, you see people that come up to you and come up to you and share these stories and memories. Uh, there's really nothing like it.
right.
Now, do you keep up with the wrestling scene at all today?
I watch it a little. You know that the NXT is pretty decent right now. Steve Carino's still doing. He's working with the tag teams and stuff like that. So I do. I get to hang out and watch it, and it's not bad. It's not bad stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think NXT has some great talent on there, and I think that can be huge stars in the future on the
Yeah.
main roster.
I
Uh,
swear they can open up 20 territories and have good shows all across this country. I mean, that's how much talent's up there.
it's really fascinating to see how wrestling has grown, and we're kind of in like that boom period where there's so
Yeah.
many companies now, and it's accessible, and you get to watch it.
Yeah, the boys can get a decent paycheck. I mean, these independents are packing buildings, which is great. It's great for the boys.
Yeah, the future I feel like is definitely with that indie
Yeah,
scene because it
yeah,
provides the talent with so many opportunities,
yeah.
and then they can go up to the big time from there.
Right, right, right. Yep. It's business is still going. I honestly, I would have lost if I had a pile of money and bet it when you UC UFC came into play. I was like, oh, that's gonna be it for wrestling. That they're gonna take over and just kill wrestling. And it never came true, man. I mean, both of them are just rolling.
And it's funny now how UFC and WWE are now in
Are
one
owned by the
company.
same people, right?
It's
Yeah, it
crazy.
blows my mind. Yeah, it's like crazy time.
Who would have known?
Yeah, yep.
Who would have known?
Crazy, crazy.
Now, last time you came on the show, you were talking about the charity work that you've done with animals.
Right.
Now you got something pretty fascinating that you're doing
Yeah,
with people.
I actually opened up my own nonprofit, and let me I opened up Victory Driving Academy, which is my driving school in Daytona Beach, Florida. And how I got into the nonprofit part is that private driving lessons are very expensive, and a lot of kids can't afford them. And if you can't afford driver's license, you can't afford you know getting your learner's permit, getting your driver's license. The whole process takes a lot of money. It really does.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one reason I started this nonprofit is to help the kids that you know are set back with a couple things. Kids that are in foster care, kids that are just struggling, kids that are you know in homeless shelters and stuff like that. I want to give them a fair shake. At the everybody. I call it the American dream. Uh, Driving the car. I took it for granted, you know. I had a hardworking dad that bought me a car, my first car. You know, a lot of kids don't have that luxury as I did. So it's time for Jacko to give back, you know.
I think that's so cool, being
Yeah,
able to provide like a platform to be able to
right,
help kids that are going through so much in their lives to
right,
live their dream, pursue their
right.
passions,
Get
and
good jobs, you
get
know
good
what I
jobs.
mean?
Yeah, have that life experience.
You know, right now, I'm working with kids that, they can only work wherever the bus takes them. You know what I mean? So me helping them get their, license and all that and cutting deals with them to get their cars and stuff like that's going to help them tremendously. So I'm pretty proud of what's going on.
Now, how long have you started this business?
The, the nonprofit Victory Driving Academy has been around for 2 years. The nonprofit started this year.
Ooh, okay, so
Yeah,
it's fairly
yeah, it's
new.
fairly new, and it's not easy. I'm telling you, starting a nonprofit is not easy. It's slowly starting to pick up momentum now. You need to get over those hurdles. I'm starting to, get really good donors and stuff like that to move it forward.
What were some things that you kind of struggled with in the beginning that you're now going, okay, I now know what we're doing?
You can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't have people with money backing you, you know, you can only do so much. Victory Driving Academy can only do so much. You need that. It costs right around. This is just lessons, license, and their learner's permit is right around $500. You know what I mean? So how many kids can you help? If you don't have backers, you know what I mean? So
You got
yeah,
to get as many people to help
yeah,
support you as possible so that the
right,
project gets
right,
funded and out there.
right,
And
right.
it's incredible now, almost a year into this project. That where do you see Victor Driver Academy going?
Well, Victory Driving Academy is doing fantastic. You know, I I did that about 2 years ago. I started that company, and now I'm doing it full time, hiring people. It's going really well. Um, the My first keys is the nonprofit. Um, we're starting now. We're starting to get into the fundraising stuff like that. I'm putting my personal F-150 up for a $10,000 bounty. Um, 20 businesses are going to wrap the car in their logos and stuff like that. And so it's pretty it's fun. You know, got a lot on my plate. So
When you are helping these kids, I'm sure like when they come up to you and when they get their license, I'm sure it makes you feel real good because you've
it
helped them
does.
out.
It does. It does. Who would have ever thought Jack Victory would be helping, kids learn how to drive, But that's one thing I thank Bill Watts for, because the only thing you did was drive, wrestle, and sleep in that territory. There was no, there was nothing else. Drive, wrestle, and sleep. That was, but I love to drive. You know, you can ask any of the boys that went up and down the roads with me. That's one thing that I did pretty well, was drive that car. So,
When you're in the car with your students, what are some things that you tell them that keeps them, going and giving them that
oh, you
encouragement?
always you always have to break that ice of nervousness. You know what I mean? I have a braking system on my side of the car, so that helps a lot. Me able to stop that car if they get into any trouble and stuff like that is a blessing. You know, but you got to grab that wheel sometimes too, man, when they start drifting. These little rookie kids, they start drifting down the road. But it's fun. It's fun working with, yeah, I work with adults too. It's just not kids. It's adults. My oldest student was 84 years old.
84.
She got pulled over for going too slow. So in the state of Florida, if you get a ticket at that age, you have to take the driver test again.
Oh
So
man.
she took the driving test 65 years ago. You know what I mean? Said, and that was like horse and buggy back then. So she hired me to show her what was on the driving test, and she got her license again. So it was,
Got him.
she did good. She did good.
That's a very inspiring story. It's never too late to learn a new
Never too
thing.
late. Yeah, exactly, man.
84
Um,
years old.
84
That's
years
a
old.
that's a success story.
She was a cutie pie, that's for sure. Yep.
What is it about giving back to the community that gives you the most joy?
You know, I answered this a lot. I lived a really cool life, really cool. You know, was able to live out my dream at 18 years old, going on the circuit, wrestling. I lived that dream, and my last days on this earth, I'm giving back. You know, and that's until the good Lord takes me. That's my mission, is to help people out.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know what people are going through in life, and it
Yeah.
takes that one person to turn their day around.
Yeah,
And
just one smile from these kids. They've been through so much hell. You know what I mean? Been through so much. You know, and you know, getting them their license and stuff like that. It is just like you said. It's so cool.
yeah, it's definitely rewarding to be able to pay it forward to other people that are
Right,
that are just going through a lot in their lives and are
right, right. So
and you're doing them a good service by teaching them and inspiring them
right,
to do well in life.
it is pretty cool. It is pretty cool when I lay my head down at night. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, Jack, I want to say thank you so much for coming back on to Wrestling with Heart, reaching back out to me. It
No
means a lot to
problem.
me and to my listeners and
If
viewers.
any of your listeners want to go onto the website of the nonprofit, it's myfirstkeys.org. Really easy to, easy to remember. Myfirstkeys.org. If you want to get a hold of me, just go right through that website and hit that contact.
Yeah, and if you want to plug your other stuff as well, like where people can find you and where you're
Well,
going to be at.
Victory Driving Academy is, it's the name victorydrivingacademy.com. That's my driving school. I think I'm going to be in Florida somewhere in October. I'm not sure though. But I'll keep you posted.
All right. Well,
Thank you,
Jack,
man.
thank you again.
Thank you
And
for inviting me again. And who knows next time we meet what's going to be on the plate. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're more than welcome to come back. We'll do a part three.
all right, Stan, the man. You the man.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely.
All
Take
right.
care.
All right, buddy. Have a great night.
You too.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.